Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the Extra Time segment where I'm joined by Callum Brannan. We're going to be getting through the ins and outs of what went on at Ellen Road on Saturday afternoon. Everton drew 2-2 at Leeds United. It was an interesting game, wasn't it, Callum? We'll get straight into it. What do you make of the performance and the result?
It's a bit of a 50-50, really. It was kind of like the Southampton game all over again. The first half was a bit iffy. I think we all knew Leeds were going to control possession against us. I think we naturally knew that going into the game. I don't think we were as bad as in the Southampton game. I think we played quite well with a few players standing out a little bit. But I think it was the second half where the team really came to life, and we probably should have won. I think I'm in my right to say that. I think we had a few chances where we should have won. But I do think going to Ellen Road, being arguably, taking the better chances and, almost coming away with a win, coming away with a draw is still a good result, especially at an Ellen Road where fans have just come back for the first time.
Yes, Leeds fans' first Premier League game since 2004. So, I think there was a lot of anticipation for this game on their behalf. And I really thought they were going to run us all over the park, to be honest. I was really worried about this game. And I thought we might get a draw or something out of it, but I thought it'd be a very much back to the wall, similar to what we often saw with Ancelotti last year. But we actually held our own, and we got forwards as well, and we did a really good job of counter-attacking on them. And I think, like you say, I think we have more of the chances. I think we should be disappointed not to have won, but the fact that we're able to say that we're disappointed not to win is a good sign that, things are going relatively well so far. We probably did deserve to win, and it's not often, in games where I thought we'd get absolutely legged, to be honest, that we go and hold our own and maybe should win the game. So I am pleased with the performance. I'm gutted about the results. I think to throw the lead away twice is never what you want as a fan, and it's annoying that we didn't see the game out from those positions. But it's still a sign that to go there and actually take the lead twice wasn't something I was expecting to see. When we, like you say, we're going to the first Leeds game with fans in for a long time. It was definitely a really decent performance. I think, if not spectacular, I think we did a good job, and certainly we were worthy of a point at least. I think to lose the game would have been very harsh on us. Leeds played well as well, so I think it was a good game for both sides, and probably a good result for both sides as well.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, if you'd have told me going into it, you're going to get a draw at Ellen Road, and it's not just going to be you've scraped a 1-1 draw and you've managed to hang in and survive. It was a back and forth game. It was a good game to watch when the stream wasn't crashing because it wasn't shown on English TV. But so it's kind of just, it's a bit iffy really, because it's just, it shows that there's a few improvements. I think each performance has shown that there's clear improvements that need to be made in the team. I think Demarai Gray has been a fantastic addition. He's proven it in every game he's played. He's made a big impact. Doucouré seems to, this new role he's been given under Rafa has, not revitalised him because he was good for us last season, but he looks like a completely different player when it comes to every part of his game. He's, dominating games. He got an assist again, even though apparently he got one in the first game, but now that's not a thing. But I don't know what happened really.
Did he get an assist in the first game?
Well, I thought he did, because I thought he. I remember on the Premier League app it said he had an assist before the Leeds game. I remember checking, and now I don't. It's been revoked, so I don't know if someone else got it and it was just a mistake, and they only realised like 2 days before the game that that wasn't Doucouré, because Iwobi was registered as having the assists. So they haven't managed to get them too confused. So I don't know what happened.
Iwobi got an assist with Richarlison and Townsend last week.
So I think they've managed to get Townsend and Doucouré confused then.
I don't know. You think it's one of those. Given the obsession with fantasy football, you think they'd be getting those things right on the Premier League official site, wouldn't you? I can imagine there's a lot of fantasy football players out there who were up in arms.
Yeah, fantasy football probably got it right, but then the Premier League app's like, yeah, Doucouré got the assist. Yeah, he didn't. But yeah, still 2 goal contributions in 2 games for a central midfielder. You're not going to say no to that.
No, absolutely not. We didn't get anywhere near enough contribution out of our midfielders in terms of goals or assists last season. So to, like you say, we've already got 2 out of Decore this season. And like even then, like looking at the assists last week and also this week as well, it's nice to see like different names getting involved with the goals, be it scoring or assisting. And it's nice to see the goals being spread around a bit, because that's certainly something we haven't done well in the last few years. I think we've been heavily reliant on Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison to get the goals, and not enough contribution from behind them. So if we sort of changing that, Rafa Benitez, then he's doing something very right.
Yeah, I think it's really moving the centre backs. I think it's getting Godfrey back in, and I think that's where you'll see us at our best, really. Because no offense to Michael Keane, Michael Keane's been a good servant to the squad, but he's had an awful first 2 games. He's had an absolute clanger first 2 games, and he might pick that up because in the end it is still only 2 games. But I think it is obvious how much this defense misses Ben Godfrey and his impact. Because I think Mina was pretty good once again.
He had his excellent, I thought.
He had his little scrap with Bamford that made me chuckle, but besides that, he put in a good performance. I think Coleman played quite well yet again, which I still think we need a right back, but I think until we get one in, as long as he keeps doing a job until we bring someone in, I'm not going to complain.
I mean, I don't think Coleman was necessarily amazing, but he wasn't terrible like some people maybe said he was. But for me, I think, like I say, Michael Keane he's not an Everton player. I think we should be chipping Keane out. I think he's shown even though he has got ability, his mentality is poor. Literally two games with crowds in the stadium, and he's back to bricking it and lumping it and gifting chances.
Yeah, that's the big problem, really, isn't it? It's just he'll get the ball, and it's like I forgot who did it. It might have been was it Digne early on in the game where we had a bit of a panicky moment, and then one of the defenders got it in the middle of the box, and instead of just hoofing it, ran out with it and tried to actually do something with the ball, which I think is something Rafa's really trying to instill in, and I think it's another reason why we need Godfrey, because someone with his pace has the ability to pick up the ball even in his own box and then jet out maybe to like the halfway line to create something, because he's got the athleticism to do that. And my problem with Keane is exactly what you said. His first instinct is just to get rid of it. And maybe if we played a back 3, that'd be okay. But clearly Rafa doesn't want to play a back 3. So
I don't want to play a back 3.
No, I don't think it works with our personnel. We'd have to make a few signings to make it work, and I don't think Rafa wants that anyway. So I don't know. I think Keane as a rotation option is not the end of the world unless we can get a decent bid for him. But at the end, I also want to see if maybe we can start giving Branthwaite a few chances, because if Keane's not going to perform, why not have Branthwaite as that backup? And I do see Branthwaite playing against Huddersfield, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think either one of Michael Keane or Mason Holgate needs to be sold. Personally, I'd make it Keane because Holgate's still young and might improve, whereas I think Keane's a ceiling of his potential now. He's 28. We need to, if we're going to make money on him or, recoup money, we're going to have to sell him either now or next year.
100%, yeah. And I think Holgate's more versatile too. Like, don't get me wrong, he's not an amazing centre-back, but he can do a job at right-back, and he's proven he can play central defensive midfield before as well. So I'd much rather have him on the bench as someone where if we have to have a last resort, here you go, running a defensive midfield, you can do something for us. He's much more versatile. Keane can play centre-back and centre-back exclusively, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing. And of course, Holgate's 24. So, you've still got time to, maybe someone will still probably buy him for, a little bit of money. Even if we sold both, I wouldn't be against that if we got another defender in, because I don't think either of them have done it enough. But I think I'm willing to give Holgate more of a benefit of the doubt because of his age, that he could still improve. I think Keane, for me, is proven, even now at this, probably the peak of his career, is not really good enough for where we want to go. I think your mentality is as weak as that. I think he's really he really does struggle with the fans in the stadiums, and he's relying too much on confidence. You can't really have confidence players. Confidence players are usually number 10s or wingers or strikers. You can't really have confidence players in defence, or your defence creaks on the regular.
He's a really old school player, isn't he? That's why he fit Burnley so well. And even if you went back, I think you'd all of a sudden you'd be ace again, because if you play for Burnley, your job is just to defend. You don't really have much extra added onto you. That's the job of the midfielders, the fullbacks. You know, Tarkowski, me example, their job is just to defend, and they're really good at it. And Keane's a good defender, but in the end, Everton want to do more than that. We want our centre backs to be able to progress the ball and go. Keane's a good passer,
He
like
is,
he's
yeah.
shown it. He's a good passer, but I think there's a difference between a passer and someone who progresses the ball. He's just going to get it and play a long pass, which he's good at. But we want the centre back who can bring the game forward. So, for example, Godfrey can drive, can pass. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Keane's a better passer than Godfrey, but I also think Godfrey's shown the potential to be a really good passing centre back, and Rafa can mould him. So, in the same time, I think Keane, his time at the club is over, because I just don't see the point in giving him a backup role when I feel like a club would take a punt on him in the Premier League, because they know if they want someone who can really just defend, that's what he'll offer. He also offers goal scoring from corners. So I really think I thought Holgate was going to be the easiest to sell, mainly because of the Brighton interest, but that's dead now, I think. But I really do think maybe a Watford, a Norwich especially now, may take a punt on him and give him an opportunity, because teams like that need a defender, someone who can really just grit down, defend in an old school style of way. And I think that's what Michael Keane brings you, which is not what we want.
Not at all. I think to be honest, like you say, when we've been at our backs against the wall, that's when Keane plays his best football for Everton. Is when we're sitting deep. But if you want to go and attack, and you don't really want to. I think also his other flaw, apart from his mentality, is his lack of pace, which you mentioned before. And you can't stretch the game as much if you're playing him. Whereas, with Godfrey, you've got a bit of recovery pace there, or a lot of it in this case.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, really, because in the end, a lot of us, I don't think we were really bothered if Michael Keane would leave. I think we all prioritised Holgate leaving first, really. But now I think we've noticed the way Rafa wants to play is just Michael Keane doesn't fit it, because even when we've got our back against the wall, we've shown now that we've got this ability to finally counter quickly. We can go at teams, and with Damari Gray's pace, Richarlison's got a fair bit of pace, and so does Dom. That now we can actually finally get forwards quickly, and then maybe Iwobi and Townsend, for example, don't have the most pace, but they're then able to get into a position to be able to, Townsend case, because he does it a lot better, swing a good crossing, which was shown perfectly in the Southampton game, for example. And I think, it's just, we want someone quick at that centre back, for example, if we want to counter attack, because then, as I said earlier, Godfrey can pick it up, out sprint most strikers, midfielders to get the ball further, and then we can play a ball to Damari Gray, Richarlison, Townsend, Calvert-Lewin, and I just don't think that's something Michael Keane can do at a good pace, because when we've seen him do it, it's just so slow, and then we see the defense just gets back into position like that, and we just well, that's it. There's a counter-attack opportunity gone.
There's just this thing where he pivots a lot, he runs, and then he'll turn back and pass back anyway, which annoys me sometimes. I think.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, the point I'm making is I think Michael Keane's time at Everton should be coming to an end.
Yeah,
whether the problem with that is we've given him a new contract only last year, which is another indicator of the club isn't being run very well. We should be give these players maybe a 1 or 2 year extension, but not a new 5-year contract. We've got 4 more years of him. Unless...
Yeah, I don't think it's as bad as Delph, for example, because like I said, I think there will be a few teams that look at Michael Keane and go, he can give us what we need. For example, Delph, don't get me wrong, Delph played okay against Leeds yesterday when he came on. I think all of us sighed inside because we wanted to go for the win and bury Leeds, which we had the opportunity to do. But I just think it's obvious that, for example, with Delph, the stuff he's come out and said, the contract he's been given, it's just not going to happen. Michael Keane, on the other hand, I don't think he's going to ask for monstrous wages. He might ask for a little bit at a Norwich, because he knows, well, there's a chance I go down. So if I go down, let's at least earn a bit of cash while I'm doing it. And so I just don't think the contract situation with Keane's going to be as bad, because I just think someone would come in to him for him in a January, a team that's struggling defensively, maybe Burnley get a bad injury, but saying that they've just signed Nathan Collins from Stoke. So I don't know, but I do think there'll be a decent bit of interest in Keane if we say he's available at the right price.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, to be fair, he is a player who can do a job level. It's just not for us, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but like I say, I think Keane was probably the main culprit at the back, but equally, I think I was saying to Connor on the instant reaction yesterday that I wasn't impressed with Luca Dean either. I thought he was. I think he got run ragged by that Rafinha, and
Yeah,
he dug us into a hole when he got off that silly yellow card for throwing the ball away.
yeah. I think that's the big problem with Digne, because obviously we're all going to sit and we know he's maybe probably the best player at the club, because I think he's a top left back in Europe. I think there's no argument to that when he's on his day. But I think he's got a bit of a temperament, doesn't he? Gets angry a lot. He throws a
What I
strop
hate
out.
about him, and this is why we got
Yeah,
the yellow card, I think, was he threw the ball away, but he loves to like kick at the heels when the players are going nowhere. There's players are
yeah.
always like he backs them into corners really well, and he
Even
kicks
he's
them.
getting done as well, because he likes to dive in a little bit as well. I think
He does.
that's his problem. He didn't realize with Rafinha that Rafinha is the sort of player where he's going to watch Digne, notice what he's doing, and then adapt to it, which we saw. And instead, Digne should have done the same thing, stopped and noticed. Right, he's waiting for me to bite so he can get past me. So I'm not going to bite to put him in an awkward situation. Because it's not the end of the world. Because in the end, I do think Rafinha's proven, and he's continuing to prove he's one of the better wingers in the league. But it's just this idea that he didn't notice enough in time. I think he had plenty of time to notice and try to at least adapt a way to stop him, even if that means, get one of the midfielders to come help you out a little bit or something, if you're, because he's not the best defensively. I think we all know that. I think what makes him so good is what he can bring you offensively, but at the same time, he's not a liability defensively, but it looked like there's a possibility that he could have been against Leeds if he would have kept doing what he did. And he calmed down a bit after the yellow card. He got to.
But I think he became one with the yellow card because he couldn't get touch tight.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He couldn't play his little aggressive style, which, don't get me wrong, you get away with a decent amount in the Premier League. You can do your pushing, your shoving, and the kicking at the heels. But then when you get a yellow card for something just so stupid and unnecessary, when we winning at the time, or was it 1-1?
Yeah, we were 2-1 up.
We were 2-1 up. What's the point? Because this is what I mean. Leeds got in our head. Well, they got in Digne's head, and then that's it. His temper flared up, and it's like, that's it. What we went to do at that point.
I'll be honest, mate. I thought the game turned on that because as soon as he couldn't go near Rafinha just run as ragged. And the thing is with Rafinha, he's already done us twice last season. He pretty much single-handedly terrorised us in 2 games last season. We should be learning from these things and how best to deal with him.
Yeah, I do think that's the best part about Rafa, though. I really do. I think, look at, for example, against Southampton, Armstrong scored in the first half, and then what Armstrong, even with his pace, was getting blocked out in the second half, really. He wasn't really doing much in the second half. I think that's the best thing. So I think next game we might see it. Because, for example, in the first half, Rafinha wasn't, shredding us to bits. It was the second half mainly where he just started blitzing past everyone and making our players look like idiots. I think my favourite thing about Rafa is I do think the players will adapt next game and he'll have a strategy. Because you always notice him, don't you? He's always writing down on his little post-it notes. And even when players are getting a yellow card, everything's noted down and strategized for. So I just think, for example, with these players who always seem to do us, unless it's like a Bruno Fernandes, because he's the sort of player that it's almost impossible to game plan against. So besides the world-class players, I think the best part about Rafa is Everton are going to find a way to deal with the players that have always been problem players for us in the past.
Yeah, I think that's one of the other thing about the Dean situation where he gave that stupid yellow card and he threw the ball away. As soon as he got booked, you seen the camera pan to Rafa Benitez on the touchline, like you say. He had his little notepad and he was writing a note about it. And I'm hoping that means he's going to have a word with Dean about that because you can't be that petulant in the Premier League. You're going to get booked if you throw the ball away. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, because even if you have to take an American sports approach to it, if Digne is going to sit and he's going to be aggressive, make him sit down and watch highlights film of the player he's coming up against next week, and then he can watch him and he can go, right, is he going to wait for me to buy, or am I going to have to wait for him to buy? Am I going to have to be patient, or can I be aggressive against this winger? Because, you know, a lot of the wingers are different. So I think that's maybe something he'll have to do, and it'll help him adapt more to the game, and it might help him a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Obviously, Dean's another one of the more senior names in the squad, and it would be nice to see him be a bit more mature defensively. But you know, I think Benitez, if anyone, could probably coach that into him. We can wait and see what happens there. But again, I was encouraged by the fact that Benitez noted that down.
Yeah,
The
I
yellow
don't think
card.
everything now. Every time there seemed to be a little negative issue, you'd either see Rafa, you know, a lot more animated than he usually is on the touchline, or you'd see him something would be getting noted down. He's always talking. It's like before the penalty when whatever the Leeds players called went down, clearly, you know, trying to get the dust off the penalty and trying to stop it from happening, but because it looked like he was faking it completely to try to stop the penalty. Rafa called over, I think it was Digne and Demarai Gray, called over that left-hand side and started speaking to him, Bo. And then you noticed after that, Demarai Gray really came into the game. And all of a sudden, it was Leeds didn't know how to deal with him. And, you know, I think that's the positive part. He's watching the game. And instead of Carlo, where I'm not saying Carlo's a bad coach. It was very rigid. Not much changed during the game. Rafa seems free-flowing where something can change throughout the game, change at half-time, and we'll come out a completely different team. And I do think that's something that worked really well against Leeds, because Leeds are a team that, you know, they've got amazing stamina, but they'll tire out eventually. And I think that's why in the second half we started to get into the game more and more and more, but we just didn't take our chances.
Yeah, but I think the difference between Ancelotti and Benitez seems to do better with worse squads. To be honest, he can get more out of lesser players, whereas Ancelotti's always been known as a manager who's gone into talented squads and, you know, players who are already delivering. And, you know, obviously delivered the success where maybe another manager hasn't, but he seems to be better at dealing with elite players, where Benitez seems to get more out of, you know, more average players.
Yeah. Rafa's more suited to mid-table, like Carlo, for example. Carlo can take a player who's, you know, not world class but very good, and he can push him up into that high echelon of players because he's a good man manager. Rafa can watch someone like an Alex Iwobi and make Alex Iwobi put in, you know, two arguably good performances in a row, especially the Southampton game. So it's just, you know, like, for example, Iwobi wasn't unreal against Leeds, but like you said, we wouldn't have watched Leeds going into that and actually expected Iwobi to have a good performance again.
No, not at all.
Like, his only problem was when they squared it into the box, I remember, and he just put it over. But in the end, it wasn't the end of the world. He was still progressing the ball forward and he was still doing a decent job. And I loved how much you were pressing too. That's one thing I've noticed about Everton this season that I love, how much it's not constant, but we seem to press in certain positions of the pitch, which I do really like, because a lot of the players seem to already understand what we're doing, when to do it, and, you know, certain players maybe to target when we are pressing, which is a big improvement over the Ancelotti side, where we just sit back, low block, and just hope we can defend.
Yeah, I think it's good to see that we are pressing a lot more. I think it's given us more of a fighting chance in a lot of these games, and we are getting forward better, much better than last season. So I am happy with what I've seen performance-wise. And, you know, on the attacking side of things, you know, Demarai Gray, you mentioned there, he was excellent, really. I'd say he was our man of the match.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's really good performance and well-taken goal to boot as well, to Corey as well.
Yeah, never expected that. I know, because even at Leicester, I liked him, but it was the end product that was the problem. He could get there, but then he was finishing it. That was the problem, and it was fantastic because he was even falling over when he shot. And it's just, I don't know if it was lucky. I think it might have been a little bit lucky, and it was also lucky that he didn't end up tearing his ACL on that knee slide. But it's just, I think he already looks like he could be up there for bargaining of the season. Because let's face it, if he puts in a performance like that, 15 out of 10, even out of 38 games, he cost £1.7 million. He cost us nothing. It's like, you know, they mentioned it, and I think it's a show of what Everton can do when we're smart in the transfer window. You know, but two of our front three combined, obviously take Richarlison out, cost £3.3 million. And they both contributed to the goals.
Yeah, that's the thing. Calvert-Lewin again, like, he took the penalty really well, and the only downside is obviously he struggles sometimes to finish 1v1. Like, you know, what we spoke about Obi there, threaded a really good ball through at one stage and each other scored.
He's
Uh,
still going to improve, though, isn't he? In the end, I think this is what a lot of people complain and go, "Oh, Calvert-Lewin can't finish one-on-ones to save his life." I'm like, it isn't. First of all, it's not that bad. It isn't. Like,
no,
it's not
he
good.
has scored a few.
It's not brilliant, but in the end, he's still getting better. He's only what, 25?
24.
He's not 24. He's not in the prime of his career yet. He's not. He's getting there. And I think Rafa's going to notice this now because after the Southampton game as well, we saw an example maybe. And he's going to go, maybe you do this, maybe you do this. Or he might always have Richarlison tag along with him just in case. So have them close together so it'll help Dom a bit more. But in the end, he does everything else really well. Even his link-up play, it's good for a striker. So it's the one thing that winds me up about our fan base, the people saying we need a better striker than Calvert-Lewin, because if we want a better striker than
He
Calvert-Lewin,
finds it hard to find a better one than him.
you're paying at a minimum £50 million. That's at a minimum to find a better striker than him at a decent age. Yeah, maybe you can go sign a 32-year-old for 20 million, but that's not going to work well, is it? In the end, Calvert-Lewin is going to naturally get better. He's got better players around him, better service around him. And in the end, he's naturally just going to improve because who won the penalty? Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who probably would have scored if he wasn't dragged to the floor. And then we wouldn't, all of a sudden, the fans wouldn't have been going, oh, he can't finish chances because he'd have scored.
Yeah, well,
So
that's it. Yeah, it's one of those. It's his one-on-one finishing. That's the problem, and I think that's one of those. He's got to gain a bit more composure in those situations. I think that's the one thing he's missing is that composure.
yeah, because he's not a natural striker as well, is he? He's a winger who we converted into a striker because of his physicality. And in the end, he probably should have got two. The one where Meslier managed to save it from going through his legs, which in the end, that's not down to Calvert-Lewin. That's down to Meslier making a good save.
Yeah, that was. I think that was luck. To be honest, I think he did everything right in that situation.
He put it through his legs as well, and he managed to get it out last second. It was going through his legs, and that'd have been once again, Everton fans wouldn't have been saying, "Oh, he can't finish his chances," because it's football fans, isn't it? It's not just our fans. It's next game if Calvert-Lewin scores a hat trick, those same fans will be calling him best finisher in the league and stuff like that. It's just football fans are all fickle.
Oh, definitely, but I think long term, I think it's more the one-on-ones. That chance from the cross he was just unlucky there. I think that was he took everything quite well. It's the one-on-ones where you really think he could have chipped the keeper there in that situation, and
Yeah,
there's more
decision making.
Yeah, more composure in front of the goal. I think that
the more games you play, the more chances you take, the more composed you'll become naturally. And in the end, maybe he doesn't. But at the same time, let's hope he does. Because, for example, if Calvert-Lewin can score 15 league goals while missing 50% of his one-on-ones, then imagine what he can do when he starts putting away those one-on-ones. He will be one of the most, if not the most dangerous striker in the league. And I don't think that's, out of this term to say that when he's proven that he can have this big facet of a game that he doesn't have locked down yet, but he can still score a ridiculous amount of goals. Because last season it was without penalties as well. This is now including with penalties, which is possible. This may be his 20 Premier League goal season with 4 or 5 penalties. So I just think it's natural improvement, and he's going to keep improving until he hits that peak. And I do think Rafa's a good manager because we've seen him be able to get the best out of strikers in the past. So I do think it's only onwards and upwards for Calvert-Lewin from here.
Not in mind, the other aspects of this performance as well. Like you say, there was a lot more pace about this performance as well, wasn't there? And that'll get the best out of fast players like Calvert-Lewin.
That's what I mean. We didn't even. It's like we were just everyone was saying one pacey winger will make the difference. Obviously, we wanted Leon Bailey, but the rate Damari Gray's going, he might end up having a better season than Leon Bailey. We don't know the rate he's going if he keeps it up. So it's just it's this idea of maybe we made the right move. Maybe it's this situation where funny Everton. We end up getting no money and make better signings than we would have made with money. I know, obviously, it's unfortunate with the Dumfries situation, but like I said, there's still, if I check here, it's not going to show me the date. 10 days, 9 days left.
9 days left.
We'll do something. I 100% think we'll sign a decent name, because if we're offering 30 million for Correa, there's at least proof there that we have the funds maybe to make one signing.
But were we even making them? But were we making that offer though? I don't even know if that's legit.
Arteta money. I don't know, but I think it's there somewhere. Maybe they figured out now that maybe they've got some people to do the numbers for them, and there's like, hey guys, the exact amount of money you can spend, exact amount of wages. Because I think our problem was the owner was sat there. We thought we had no money because the owner was like, well, Farhad was like, yeah, we're going to spend loads of money again, 100 million again, let's go. And then being told, oh wait, we can only spend 30 million. Because in the end, I think we've made the squad signings we need. I think that's done. So I wouldn't mind us spending all of our budget on one good player. Like Correa would have been a good signing, in my opinion. But he wants to go to Winter. That's not the end of the world. I hope that Brands has got, and Rafa have got a few other names on the list. And that maybe at least one or two. I think we're going to do one or two. Even if one of them has to be a loan or someone who can make an impact off the bench, it's just, I think this squad will tire out eventually. And I do think the bench is decent and now compared to what it was. But I really, really think we need one or two more players to
Definitely.
really make an impact if we want to, even, I'm not saying challenge for the top six, but just at least look like a better team than we were last season.
Just to be more of a threat, really, whatever that is too, whether it's top 6, top 8, whatever. But just to be a threat in every game that we play is what is important, I think. And for us as fans, just to be able to watch the game and not always feel like you've got a chance of winning the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's an I think it's already an improvement, personally. I think you can see it. And don't get me wrong. Yeah, under Carlo, the first few games we looked unreal. You know what I mean? We looked like one of the better teams in the league, and then injuries to Digne, Alan, the team slowed down massively and they got exposed for a lack of pace. So I just think I don't want to jump in and say, oh, Rafa's going to do better than Carlo. But, I think we're seeing that Rafa's clearly, I think, let's face it, I think he's seen, I do think he's probably been scouting Everton as a club for years. I really do, because I think he knows we sack our managers a lot. It's local to the area, and he's admitted he wants the job because it's local. I think he's always probably had an eye on Everton. So he's been keeping an eye for years now, and he probably watched us last season, knew where the improvements needed to be made. As when Carlo was sacked, came in, clearly has made those improvements, even if they were free signings. Like, obviously, we don't know about Begovic yet, but he's a decent backup. He does the job. Demarai Gray's already proven to be, if he keeps it up, good business. Townsend's already proven that if he keeps it up, good business. So I just think it's about maybe bringing in, not like a marquee £50 million signing, but someone who's 20, 30 million who can really make a difference, unless we can manage to pull off a miracle and sell Moise Kean for the money we want.
Yeah, well, for me, it's all about, I think we need to get a quick right back in.
Yeah, I think that's 100%. I think if we can get a quick right back and another decent player for 30, 35 million combined, which I do think you can in this current window. Like, what did Dumfries go to Winter for? 13 million euros? 15 million euros? I guarantee there's someone out there, maybe not to the caliber of Dumfries. We're saying that we've not even seen him play a league game yet, so we don't know. But someone to a decent caliber, a Premier League caliber, who might be quite young for really cheap, because their club is struggling with money right now. It'll exist. It's just about finding it. And it's just hopefully we find the right one.
I'd like us to look more into the Championship myself and see what we can get from there.
There's a few decent players in the Championship. I'm trying to think of a few. Derby have got a decent right back, but I think he's a little bit older and I don't think he's Premier League caliber. I'm not a Championship expert, so I can't really tell you the top right backs. I think Darnell Furlong's a right back for West Brom. He's pretty good.
I mean, you've seen him in the Premier League. He wasn't amazing last season.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think nothing was saving that West Brom team. It was just that defensively, it was shambles all around, and the poor lad can't do it by himself, can he? So it's just, I don't know. I don't know if anyone here watches the Championship who watches this, maybe put a few names in. I know was it Jed Spence from Middlesbrough, the young one we were linked with?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I don't even know if he starts. So yeah, we're not Championship experts. I've never had to watch Championship football in my life, so I can't really tell you. So if you want to put a few in the comments and we can have a look, maybe. But I don't really know.
As you try and keep a close eye on some of the Championship and names, some names I'm aware of, obviously, like particularly ones who have stood out, the likes of Eze, who obviously went to Crystal Palace, so I always kept an eye on him. And those
Yeah, I think
those
it's always more the attacking players, isn't it? They're the ones that stand out. There's a few centre backs that always stand out as well. I think that one who plays for Brentford's pretty good, who's just come up. Pinnock looks pretty good in the Premier League.
in
But,
it, yeah.
there's a few that stand out a lot. Rob Dickey, I think his name is, from QPR, is pretty good. But it's hard for fullbacks to stand out in the Championship because I think a lot of teams in the Championship, I might be wrong here, and I'm happy to be wrong, don't really play that fullbacks bomb forward and do this. There's quite a few teams that might have a really good fullback who's kind of hidden because their team might not play the style that really fits him into the game. But yeah, I'm not going to act like I'm a right back in the Championship expert. I'm not. And it might be something I have to have a little look at. But yeah, your point of going into leagues that are underrated and don't get enough attention, but are proven in the past to create good players and to nurture good players in. Even the Scottish League, I don't know. There's probably one in there that's a decent little right back. I'd say Tavernier from Rangers, but he's on the older age now. If he was a few years younger, 100%, I'd say bring him in. But yeah, it's just maybe a league where it's a bit more physical and we can bring someone in who's not going to struggle to adapt to the physicality of the Premier League, because that could cause a big problem, especially for a defender.
Not just that for me. I think for me, I was saying this. I've said this a lot. The mentality of players who are coming from the Championship, from those sort of more humble beginnings, they treat playing for Everton like a privilege, which it is. But a lot of players who maybe come from, an elite side to come to Everton don't see it that way, and that's where the issue lies. I think sometimes I'd rather a player come in and treat playing for Everton as if it, even at that stage, even if it isn't, and they do go on to something bigger, I want them to come in and know that playing for Everton at this stage is the pinnacle of their career.
Yeah, or you want to find someone who's willing to do anything to revive their career. For example, Alvaro Odriozola, I think his name is, Real Madrid's right backup, who's just like being completely frozen out of the side, basically. Even though when he's played, he's proven he is good. He had his place. Well, Carvajal's obviously one of the best right backs in the world. And then Lucas Vazquez got put into a right back position, like a wing back. He'll probably be available. And I don't know if Carlo might be spiteful because of everything he's heard and gone, well, we're not giving you this player. So it's just, but I think that's another good one, looking into the bigger clubs who sign all these players who just get ignored, because I think a lot of them end up coming out with a hunger to prove themselves. For example, someone like James, maybe not, even though deep down, I think he does.
Dean maybe did, but when he came from
Dean's a good example. Mina's a good example. Andre Gomez, before he had his leg snapped to pieces, was a good example. He kind of was showing that he had the ability and that he was willing to, because in the end, Gomez he tries, to be fair to him, but he just isn't very good anymore. And I think there are a lot of players who you can find that feel like they have to prove themselves, and that maybe they're like, my career's on the ropes. I have to do something to revive my career. And even if Odriozola comes in and says, maybe, for example, he comes in and goes, right, I'm here to prove myself, but I do eventually want to move to a bigger club. Who says that in 3 years when we move into Bramley-Moore, we are that club that is fighting for Europa League, Champions League, and he goes, do you know what? Your club's advanced. Because I think that's the problem with Everton, isn't it? We bring in these players, we show potential that we actually could do something, which would convince these players to stay, and then we just throw it all away by doing something really stupid. I think that's just the history of Everton. Even under Moyes, we get Europe, focus on Europe, lose in Europe, finish 11th. But then next season, when we had no Europe, we'd be in a race for Europe again. It's just Everton, isn't it? It's that quote that always goes around Twitter. It's just Everton. Yeah, exactly. But it's just, I do think, mate, I think that's what you want. I don't think you want to go out signing a big name. Like, for example, Odriozola in Spanish football is quite a big name, and he's played for Bayern, he's played for Real Madrid. But for example, to like a casual football fan, they're not going to look at him and go, oh, what a coup for Everton, like James. I think we don't want those really big names, because I just think they naturally, I think James is an exception. I think James just wants to play football. And I do think it's more Rafa doesn't want to play him because he doesn't. And I can see why he doesn't fit the style Rafa plays, watching us on the counter-attack. I can see it. But at the same time, I do think James wants to play football. And this isn't James doing like a Moise Kean and sitting, being petty and like refusing to play and stuff like that, or training alone because he wants to move. I think you've got to speak with the player first. And then I think speaking with the player really shows you their mindset. Like, for example, Dumfries, I think it's a good one. It never happened personally, because I think it's like Correa. It's the same thing. It's just, I understand we're not a pleasing option to a lot of players. We're not number one options. But when a player, for example, goes, yeah, I'm not going there, wait until I want to hear what this club says first, and just like completely just says, doesn't even consider us as an option unless it's a last resort. I don't want the club to be signing players who join as a last resort. Don't get me wrong. If for example, if Dumfries was going, yeah, if Inter Milan don't want me, I'll happily go to Everton, and I've got no problem with the club. They're not my first choice, but yeah, they'd be my second choice. I've got no problem with that. I'll try my hardest. But I just don't want to sign players who, for example, are linked to big clubs, then they have to settle with us, and then they're just like, well, I don't like this. Moise Kean.
Like, or Dumfries, or even the fact with Dumfries, the fact that whether he went to Everton or not, the fact that he was rejecting all offers just to wait for Inter, even though Inter didn't have any money until they sold Lukaku.
Exactly, that's what I mean. And it's just, it wouldn't have ended well. And I know he's a good player, but I just have that feeling that it wouldn't have ended well because it'd have been Dumfries' last resort, and he just would have threw his toys out of the pram, wouldn't he? Or he would have put in a few good performances, had a good season with us. Inter would have rejuvenized their interest, and he'd have been like, sell me now, don't want to be here. And it's just, it happens all the time, doesn't it? It's why I like your idea of the Championship, because unless those players are join Everton and go to the top of the top, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, well, even still, like it's going to be interesting to see what the window pans out. Like we've got 9 more days to go, of course. It's just one last thing of obviously focus on the lead game. Was there any more weaknesses with that in mind that sort of appeared to you maybe to address before the window closes?
I think Alan could have been better, but we've got a lot of midfield cover. I think maybe bringing in a more defensive left back. Someone who we can get in on a cheap, who we can bring in for Digne when, Digne gets injured, or if Digne gets himself a stupid yellow card, who's someone we can bring on who's solid defensively. Because I like Nkunku, and I think Nkunku's going to be fantastic, but he may also be helped by a loan spell more than he would being at the club, a team that's going to play him. Maybe a Championship team that'll say, yeah, you'll start every game for us. You'll be our starting left back, no worries. And I think maybe bringing in someone with a bit, can't really think of anyone right now who we could get for maybe a decent price, but someone who's just got a good defensive head on him. Because, I don't really want Godfrey playing left back again, even though he can do a job. I think he did a fantastic job, but he's a centre back and he plays his best football at centre back. Other than that, a backup striker, because Moise Kean's not going to stay, is he? And I just think maybe I don't want Dom to what happened last season where we just tired Dom out so much. And maybe another winger, because I don't know, because Iwobi and Gbamin are probably going to leave for the Africa Cup of Nations, aren't they?
That too, yeah. We've got to consider those things.
I wouldn't mind preparing for that now, it's kind of the reason I don't want Anthony Gordon to go on loan. Just for when Iwobi goes.
Gordon may only go on 6-month loan and come back in the January when they go.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. That's a really good idea. Do something like that. I just don't want us to be put in a situation where in January we're without a backup midfielder who, don't get me wrong, we've got Davies, Delph as well. So, that's not the end of the world, but maybe another winger / striker backup. So maybe someone who's like a striker who can do a job on the wings. I'm trying to, like, for example, Josh King was like that, but he obviously plays for Watford now, and I do feel quite bad for him because I don't think he ever got the chance he deserves. I can't really think of any examples out there, but someone cheap, maybe someone on loan, even from one of the bigger clubs in the Prem in Europe. I think we can. I think we've clearly got a decent relationship with Barcelona. I don't know now that Coleman's there, but we've clearly got a decent relationship with them, even with the Richarlison interest. So maybe take someone from them who will definitely exist. I would have liked if we got that Trincao who plays for Wolves, but that's gone and done now. So I don't know. It's quite difficult. Maybe a striker / a winger, like just a versatile forward, maybe some cover for left back. And I don't know, if I had to pick my big signing, it's hard, isn't it? Like if we do make that one big signing I'm talking about, it would probably be another winger to play.
I'd say right back.
Yeah, of course, right back. I don't know why we just spoke about it, so it glossed over my head completely.
That's for other weaknesses anyway from the Leeds game.
Yeah, just that anyone on that right hand side. This isn't me saying Townsend or Iwobi are crap, but I also think if we brought in a high quality winger, like a high caliber winger, our attack would be ruthless. I really think it would. I think we'd have one of the better counter attacking units in the Premier League now, especially with Decore given free role to go forward. So Yeah, just anything on that right hand side, please. Everton, like, don't just go to the end of the window without signing anyone, because in the
Just
end,
the eBay on loan.
do you know what? Bring him back. Enough.
You
I don't
Firmino?
want to see that. You know what? I won't mind seeing him back because of just the pure carnage it had caused, just the meltdown it had caused, and would be funny to watch, wouldn't it? It'd just be hilarious to watch. So it's just but besides that, just something on that right hand side, please, because I like Townsend. Iwobi's actually starting to change my opinion on him if he keeps it up. But someone really, really dangerous, if I'm not picking a right back, who can just make that attack a really lethal counter-attacking unit and can make us a team that can hold possession, can control the ball, and can catch any team on the break and score goals. That's what we want to become, really.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, we'll leave the Leeds review on at this stage, really. Anyway, let us know your opinions on the game yesterday. Like you say, any weaknesses where you think in the last few days of the window you want us to strengthen, drop us a comment below. Give this video a like, of course, and subscribe for more content. And until next time, thank you for watching on the Toffee Blues.